You know what? It's story time. What we're going to be talking about today, boom, boom, is going to be 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 1 through 24. Okay, let me give some back context before I go into this real quickly. So we got David, okay, who is the king of Israel at this time. He sees this woman in the mirror one day, or in the window one day. She's taking a bath. Her name is Bathsheba. Go figure, bath for Bathsheba. Dun-dun-dun. Okay. He sees her taking a bath and he's like, I like what I see. I want what I see as well. So he goes and he lays up with Bathsheba. Bathsheba's husband, she was married, was already fighting a war off and away somewhere into another land. Forgive me for not knowing what it is right now. Long story short, David ends up getting Bathsheba pregnant, and he ends up calling Uriah back home to come and lay up with his wife. Laying up with his wife is the furthest thing from his mind right about now. So what he ends up doing is he ends up going back on the battlefield, okay? And David pulls the military commander one more time aside. Well, he wrote him a letter, and he's just like, hey, look, put Uriah in the most fierce area that's out there on the grounds. Whatever happens, Whatever happens, bro. Long story short, Uriah ends up dead, and David ends up taking Bathsheba as his own wife. Now we're at 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 1 through 24. Okay, now we're here. So Nathan, who's a prophet of God, he comes into David's house one day and he starts to tell him this story about this rich man with many flock, many lambs, a whole bunch of lambs and stuff like that, and cattle and all that E-I-E-I-O-M's. And so he tells him that he has many flock. And then there's a poor man with just one lamb, okay? But this poor man with his one lamb, he took care of everything. He treated the lamb like it was family, like it was his own daughter, as the word would say. And the man with the many lamb one day ended up having a traveler to come by and check him out. And the traveler was hungry one day, and so the man with the many lamb, he could not see himself as slaughtering his own cattle. So what he did was he took the poor man with the one lamb, took his cattle or his lamb and killed that. Here go the y'all. Here go the funny part. David hears this whole story, right? Then David comes back and he's just like, you know what? That rich man needs to give 4 of his lamb to the poor man. Nathan sent up there with the face. He's like, look, bro, the rich man is you. Nathan proceeds to tell him that God saw everything that you did in that situation. How you tried to sweep it under the rug and didn't think nobody saw. Yeah, so here's the consequences for your sin and your actions. We're going to go ahead and take the baby, okay? You're not going to be able to have the baby. The baby is going to die. Okay, and the wives that you had where you tried to take another man's wife in secret, your wives will be taken from you in public. The streets is about to have every single wife that's in your castle, in your house. So then David starts to get on his knees and he starts to pray. He starts to pray fervently and he starts to fast, okay? He refused all food just so that God would grant him grace in this situation. He did not want to see this baby die, okay? So he had already married Bathsheba by this point, okay? 7 days after the baby was born, the baby had died, okay? But get this, as soon as the baby had died and he was praying and fasting, David got up, he washed himself off, he got anointed, he went and he worshiped the Lord, went about his business, conceived another baby who was known as Solomon, okay? Solomon was the next baby to be conceived, who was considered to be the wisest man in the entire world. Come on, let's digest this. Let's break this up, brothers and sisters. Let's go. So what can we take away from this situation? Number one, what's done in the dark always comes to light. Okay? Regardless of your position, whether you're doing the do or having the do done to you, what's done in the dark always comes to light. And just because you go through a situation that may be turmoil or that may be good, God is always going to get the glory, bottom line, because this life ain't got nothing to do with you. The moment that you were saved, the moment that you gave your life to Christ was the moment that it ain't had nothing to do with you. Point number 2. Okay, we all know that David was a man after God's own heart. But just because he had favor over his life and just because God loved him, okay, didn't mean that he didn't go through any consequences, okay? He had to go through those consequences for every single action that he had to do. But the thing I need y'all all to see, there's a secret in this, okay? Because I struggle with it. So I'm speaking to me when I'm speaking to you. Come here. He got up after he messed up. He got back up after he was offended. You have to get up and keep moving on, because there's an Isaac coming up the way. See, he had an Ishmael, okay? He had an Ishmael situation, which was him in his own flesh trying to fulfill God's promise. But he totally forgot that there might have been an Isaac in the future that he didn't necessarily see coming. And Solomon ended up being the wisest man in the entire world. Chew on that. Your blessings do not stop just because you get caught up. Your blessings do not stop just because you're down into the dumps. The purpose of your life is bigger than your current situation. I like the way that sounded. The purpose of your life is bigger than your current situation. Okay? God is trying to get you from the point of living an Ishmael. When I say an Ishmael life, I'm meaning when you try to do God's will without God. When you ask God to come in, Lord, and bless this mess. No. God is a jealous God. He has to be first in all that you do. In all that you do. You want to have this baby? Pray to the Lord for the fertility of that baby. You want to have this money? Pray to the Lord and give him the 10th. You want to have this clear peace of mind? Pray to the Lord and give him your mind first thing in the morning. He's a jealous God. He comes first above all. This whole verse of what we're going through, 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 1 through 24, just to summarize it all up, through your consequences, wisdom is produced. You've lived enough life of going through a lot of hardships, and you have become wise through the years. Just like with David, he might have had a consequence for his action in taking another man's wife and impregnating her. But yet the wisest man in the world was made from the situation. Through your consequences, wisdom is produced. Y'all chew on that. And remember this. You are loved. You are adored. You are God's beloved. You are appreciated. Okay? You are anointed. You are the child of the Most High God. You are free indeed.